Hello, and welcome to Insightful Conversations with your host, Three Principles practitioner, Del Adey-Jones. Join her each week as she welcomes some of the world's leading Three Principles teachers and practitioners who share how this understanding has dramatically improved the quality of their lives and the lives of those they work with.
We have a very special show for you today. We're going to be talking about the love that never dies, and I'm grateful to have Grace Kelly with us. Grace, a former school teacher, is a successful international coach with clients from across the globe. Grace helps other women move beyond their insecurities to become clear on their passion and connection to their business direction. By combining the spiritual and the practical, Grace helps her clients access a new and graceful relationship to success, one whereby you don't have to lose yourself or exhaust yourself or sacrifice your wisdom and well-being to succeed. Welcome, Grace. I am in awe of your courage, your strength, and your generosity in sharing your story with everyone, and your experience of losing your beloved Francesco so tragically and unexpectedly. So again, I just can't thank you enough. I know you sharing this experience is helping so many people. So it's really lovely to have you here.
Thank you. Well, thank you for reaching out. It's my pleasure. I keep saying to people, I can't not share it. It's like something that just comes through. So it almost feels like holding a gift from others that are perhaps going through the same thing, that need to hear there is another way. That grief doesn't have to take us completely down, and that however we grieve is okay. I just happen to have found my own response highly unpredictable. I couldn't have predicted that in the face of such tragic loss, such a level of well-being and love and surrender, as it says in your background, Del. I couldn't have predicted that was available to me. So I just feel a calling to share that with as many people as possible, because I think we don't know the spiritual protection that emerges until we're in a situation. And that's my experience of this, whether it's a form of love or a form of rich connection, or whether it's a form of just peace and well-being. It feels to me like a spiritual protection that has emerged, and is carrying me through this difficult time.
Yeah, I think often we do sort of jump to the conclusion that our experience of loss or someone passing very close to us should look a certain way. I remember for myself when, my mother basically, she died in my arms, and I felt her there. Nothing had changed. She just wasn't in the body anymore, but I felt her there. There was not a loss. And I remember some people expressing that it had been the third family member to lose in the space of 8 months, and people were like, you must be in shock. And it was like, no, just there was such a peace in it. And I think this understanding is what supports us in knowing that energy never dies. It just changes form.
Yeah So true.
I watched the webinar that you gave with Dick and Mavis, two of my favorite people too, and you expressed that something that you had learned from them that you got I'm sure you got it you certainly got it on an intellectual level, but the visceral level, the what's the word I'm looking for, the experiential level, that whatever they had been teaching you over the years, you got at a much, much deeper level. So I'd love you to talk about that a little more.
Yeah, that's such a good piece that you noticed, Del, because that's the crux of it, really. It's I've been trying to grasp both the principles intellectually for many years now, but also love. I spent a lot of time in my head when it came to my relationship. Well, should I do this? Should we really be together? Well, should we stay in Italy, or should we move elsewhere? And will we get married? Or maybe we shouldn't get married. It was a lot of to and fro. There was a lot of trying to understand love from an intellectual perspective. And part of that was also trying to grasp the power of thought. Well, is this just my thinking? Is what I'm thinking now just my thinking, or is it wisdom? Is this the intellect, or is it truth? And so I really got caught up in this circle that ultimately was noise. And what I'd been trying to grasp intellectually just came over me in the space of a few moments, and has been there almost 10 weeks now, just living in that feeling of love. I can't believe the level of noise I had brought to my relationship innocently. But all that questioning, all that, is this my thinking? Just, it all was gone in an instant, because all I could see and feel was love. And all I've been able to write about and share about is the feeling of love that sometimes I just didn't see when I was living in my head, but it's just so obvious now, because it's not something I'm trying to grasp intellectually anymore. And as difficult as this is for me to face at times, I kind of feel like, oh God, did Francesco have to die for me to really see love? And that's a bit of an extreme statement, but there's a bit of truth in it. It's like in his changing form, somehow the love I'd been trying to get a sense of was just so clear and so there and so obvious. And what a world it would be if we all just lived in that place more of the time, rather than trying to grab it intellectually, but also how innocent we are as humans when we're in relationship with others, and we get caught in the intellect and we get caught in the mind, and we start the love gets dissipated by the noise in the moment. I hope that has answered that question.
Oh, absolutely. And, I'm relating to what you're sharing. We can get so distracted from the love. I mean, the love is always there, always present, but we can get sort of hijacked by our thinking or distracted by it, and go through those moods where we do question our relationships. Is this something I want to be in long term or not? And I love what you're pointing to, and I'm reminded too. I think Martine, on the webinar, Martine Brizan also commented that the loss of her son was to teach her love, which was so profound as well. So it's exactly what you just shared there. So you say that this experience, was the doorway to love. Is that what you just shared with us? Is that's what it is, encapsulated right there, is the doorway to love?
Yeah, I kind of saw, even just on the webinar, just sometimes by doing these kind of interviews there, like I kind of see more deeply, and I saw loss as a doorway to love. And I'd never even considered that before.
I know. It's an amazing, it's so beautiful when you see that. Yeah. You also described going, I'm not sensing for one, I mean, you're so, as I said, so generous with your experience, and I love reading all the things that you've written, and I don't sense for 1 second there's a spiritual bypass. You're very attuned to your grief, but there is that knowing that love can never die, that just never leaves you and supports you through that grief. And you talked about grieving without fear. I would love you to talk a bit more about that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, well, in the midst of all of this, I was kind of brought to my knees with the highest tax bill I'd ever seen. And I kind of literally fell down, and what occurred to me sitting there on my knees was, you can handle this. And the next thing that occurred to me was, I'm not afraid. And that is a huge difference, I think, in our life experience, to have massive challenges or unexpected loss or huge financial situations come in, and have the experience flow, because you don't have that second layer of suffering called fear.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my grief, I feel it's not nice, it's not comfortable, but it's not scary.
Mm-hmm.
And in my massive tax bills, it's not nice, it's not comfortable, but it's not scary. And again, Del, I didn't know that was on offer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you'd have said to me 6 months ago, you know, you're going to go through this and this and this, I probably would have been freaking out. How am I going to handle it? What am I going to do? I'd have been scaring myself a lot. But what I just saw was, we can have these experiences, we can have these challenges, we can have loss without this extra layer of suffering. And I think part of that is understanding how we work, how the mind works. And like when I fell to my knees and I heard, you can handle this, I knew that was my wisdom. I knew that was truth. Versus, perhaps the old me that would have put her hands in her, or her head in her hands and just wanted to check out on life, couldn't handle it. And so I think that when we are attuned to that deeper knowing versus the intellect again, when we're attuned to hearing wisdom's whisper versus the noisy mind, we can get up off of our knees. Mm-hmm. and we know we can handle it, whatever life is throwing our way. And that was my experience, and that those challenges got sorted out. And now my experience of loss, it's not that that's as easy as sorting out as a financial situation, but the experience of loss it's allowed to flow through, is the only way I can describe it, versus getting locked in with terrible, scary thinking about the future.
Yeah, that's exactly, as I'm listening to you, what I'm hearing is that you're just so in the present moment, and that any of that fear, whether it's about, a future without Francesco or a tax bill or whatever it is, fear lives in the personal mind. It lives in, futurizing things but what I'm hearing is that you're just allowing whatever's coming through you in the moment to just flow through you, and you're not getting into this headspace of thinking about the future. So you're just very much taking care of what needs to be taken care of in the moment and experiencing it fully without any judgment.
Yeah, yes, you've got it in a nutshell. The old me would have had a lot more personal judgment on all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think this goes back to, having a little bit of distance from this noise in our head, knowing the difference between the gun to our head and the wisdom that's available to us.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just really helped me, and nothing's pulled me into the present quicker and more deeply than losing the love of my life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, nothing is, because I was somebody that was always pretty much jumping ahead, living ahead. Where are we going next? What are we doing next? When are we going? He would call me a busy bee. Here comes my busy bee. Here she comes. You know, she's being a busy bee. Because I was just like, I just sort of loved to soak up life a lot, and what else is on offer? Let's do it. And so, but as part of that, I was often planning ahead and living ahead and jumping ahead. And that's one of my regrets, if you like, is I just wish I'd been more present with him. You know, I was so blessed to have lockdown in Italy. It began on March 9th, 2020. And we had 9.5 weeks where there were no distractions. There was nowhere to go. There was nothing to do. And we cooked together, and we sat in silence together, and we had aperitivo in our garden with our dogs together at 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock every evening. And we realized the level of well-being we generally lived in as a couple, minus all the distractions. And then the world opened up again, you know, then Italy opened up again, and I got busy again, and Francesco got into concern about, you know, his work in the future. And we kind of, you know, innocently in that human form went back into the noise. But what we took with us was, yeah, but remember when there was nothing going on, how good we were?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm so thankful for that, Del, because I know of so many couples who, the moment the lockdown came, they really, I had one friend who sent her husband to live in the basement. She didn't want to see him. Suddenly he was home from work all the time, and they just weren't getting on, you know? Yeah. So I feel really grateful we had that.
Mm. Yeah, no, I again totally relate. I feel the same way. You know, I have a partner that again, just it occurred to me, it's like, oh my goodness, you know, we get on really, really well, given that we're both at home all the time now. And so yes, it is a blessing. It's a blessing that you had that time together. Now, you also mentioned, talking about judgment, you also mentioned that there are moments when you, and I know it's only moments because I know that you're so in the present moment and don't get sucked into that, but moments where you actually said you felt guilty for doing so well, for handling this experience so well. So can you talk a bit about that? Because I think there is such a thing, and I've seen it with people that I know personally who almost feel that it's disloyal to the people that have passed if they're not in a continuous state of grief, and they're not entitled to feel better. If, you know, if they're living, why isn't the other person living? Almost a survivor's guilt.
Yeah. Well, we talked earlier about that sense of love, that feeling of love that really just emerged so much more fully for me. And as a result of that, my feeling of clarity, presence, connection just really deepened. And I felt and feel really good in that presence of love. And I think that I've maybe just picked up along the way, I don't know, you're not supposed to feel good when somebody dies. You're not allowed to have any sense of relief in such a situation. And I do feel relief sometimes. I feel relieved that Francesco had a sudden death rather than a long illness. And I feel relieved that I know he lived presently and fully and enjoyed life. And I feel relieved that he had the last 10 years of his life in Italy and the last 5 years together with a deeper grounding, you know. But yeah, I guess no one gave me a blueprint for how you're supposed to go through this. I don't think there is one, but I guess somewhere in my head there was a sense of, well, death is terrible. You know, people suffer, and maybe my Irish Catholic upbringing is part of that. But you're just not meant to feel good, and so part of my feeling really good has been the miracles that Francesco has brought me and expressed to me. And I have no doubt that that's him, that that's the love, that that's the presence. And noticing those things, noticing those miracles and appreciating them have also encouraged my sense of well-being. And again, that kind of spiritual protection I was talking about earlier, Del, that kind of I just have a whole new experience of death. It's not something I'm afraid of. And it's not something that I need to, or we need to feel bad about. In fact, some days I'm walking along when I'm feeling pretty bad and I'm saying, when am I going to get there? When am I going to get that bliss? Because it just looks to me now like here is not where it's at.
Yeah.
Here and up until that point, I didn't know any of that. But part of the miracles that I've seen through Francesco's, leaving this physical plane, have shown me that, wow, gosh, there must be so much on offer.
Yeah.
I kind of joke with him sometimes and I say, I wish you'd have been this effective when you were right next to me physically, because there was a lot more resistance going on around, handling things. And now things are done like that. Everything from technology being fixed to finding things to, having conversations with me and meditations on what to do. And I have kind of considered, gosh, Grace, you really writing this, people are going to think this is woo-woo, but I can't not share what I've been experiencing.
Oh, I love reading. I mean, everything you share, I just love it, from the dancing fish to how to handle your dogs, and so much. You're reminding me of when my mum passed. I still talk to her all the time. I've got her picture it was only a couple of years ago, so I have a picture next to my bed and have a little chat in the morning sometimes. But I remember saying to her, listen, Mum, we can be together all the time now. I don't have to sort of get the BA flight over to Wales. We can be, in a second you're there. So yeah, I totally hear what you're saying. I'd love you to share a little bit too, for people that are listening, some of the ways in which that Francesco is communicating with you.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'll share the very first thing that happened, and I'll share a couple more. But, the morning after the funeral took place, I woke up and I'd had a very strong dream. And in the dream, our oldest dog had appeared to me in life-size form. And he was looking at me, and he's a Japanese Akita. So they have these beautiful eyes kind of filled with wisdom. And I woke up with him really looking at me in the dream state, and I kind of was there. And then Francesco's alarm went off on his phone. And I was pretty worried about, how do I get into his phone, his email? I mean, my God, the guy was a technological whiz kid. And so he had triple passwords and double passwords and passwords for this section and passwords for that section, because he didn't really trust putting information online and things. So I thought, oh God, how am I going to get into his phone? And it was what wasn't password. It was kind of like a code with your finger that you had to do. I don't know how there's a word for that, Del. I'm not sure.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, okay. So so the alarm went off, and I took the phone to switch the alarm off, and it said, enter your finger digit. Mm-hmm. And I have no idea how I knew, but all I can say is he guided me, and I did it correctly, and I unlocked the phone, the emails, everything that was needed. And I've no doubt, it was like I couldn't have known that. I could not have known that. So that was one of the first things, was huge for me. The dancing fish is interesting. I go to the sea every day, and I was there one day, and I said to him, I really need a physical sign. I know you're helping me unlock your phone, and you're unlocking my technology, and you're helping me in this area and you're helping me in that area, but now I need something physical. Let's get physical. And I said, I said, please embrace me. I closed my eyes, please embrace me. And I could feel that presence around me, but then I heard open up. So I opened my eyes, and in front of me were hundreds of little fish, and their tails jumping out. They just looked like they were dancing for me. They were probably eating some sort of seaweed, or suddenly they were in front of me, and they were just dancing along all the way along. And I was like, oh my God, that's beautiful. It was just the feeling that came over me. Somebody else might say, oh, well, that's a coincidence, whatever. For me, the feeling was just Francesco. And that's happened a couple of times when I've asked him by the sea, about the physical piece. And the other thing that occurred just as a third one is I would switch the radio on in the car, and every time the same song was emerging. And it was Gwen Stefani's new song, which is called, I think it's called Let Me Reintroduce Myself. And I started paying attention to the words, and I went to look up the lyrics, but she kept singing, I'm not records on your shelf. I'm still the original me. Wow. And in those moments, I just was hearing him say, Grace, I'm not those photos that you're putting up. I'm not gone. I'm still the original me. So those are just a very short few of the hundreds of ways he has shown himself to me. And I think, Del, you probably know this yourself. It's the feeling every time that just comforts me. It's the feeling that holds me. And I love that you said about a spiritual bypass, because this isn't like, she's just, she's disillusioned because she's grieving so much. This shit's real. And until you lose someone that you really, really love, you might never consider this. But when you do, like me, you're going to ask the same question. Where are you? Show me you're with me. Give me a sign.
Yeah, I completely understand. And again, as you say, I have, besides my own experiences with close family members passing, but I have friends who've lost their husbands, they've lost their children, and it's the same across the board from the people I've talked to, that they know there's something so much greater than what we see on this earth, and they know there's something beyond the physical. They've felt it. They've had the same signs, when they've asked for something, and so it is pretty. It's incredible, and it's so beautiful. And yet there are people that unfortunately don't have the understanding that we have, or don't have a spiritual foundation that can give them the comfort during these times of loss and change. So I really, really appreciate you coming on and sharing your experience. And for those people that are listening, that maybe need hope. I just want to ask how Francesco's parents are doing. Do they? I'm sure you're a massive comfort to them.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because they don't have this understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, I just see human resilience. It's really taught me, it's really, we know this innately, whether we call it the understanding or we're familiar with principles or not.
Mm-hmm.
We have this innately, this ability to handle life's greatest challenges. And so for me, they've been wonderful teachers, because I've watched them without any kind of interest in spirituality, or, and sometimes his mum will say to me, well, what do you do to see him? She had her own story where there was a little tree of life that had been broken for a year and needed new batteries. She thought needed new batteries for the light to work. And she said, oh, I wanted to let you know, I asked Francesco to show me a sign today, like you do. And he fixed the tree of life. Oh. And I was like, oh my God, this is wonderful. This was wonderful, because she hadn't considered before that was even possible. They have the urn with his remains, and they go to the urn, and they say hello, and they do all of that sort of ritual. And it's funny, I just walk past the urn, because to me it has absolutely no meaning, but to them it does. And so they find their way, and I find my way. But what we have in common and connection is this incredible spiritual protection that allows resilience, whether we pray for it or not, whether we understand it or not, whether we're familiar with how our mind works or how God works or not. It's there. And I feel really grateful to see that, I feel really grateful that we don't need to have it all figured out in order to be looked after.
I love that. And the respect for the different ways in which you do, keep him alive, whether it's through honoring the urn or through however, I feel the same way too. I mean, sort of graves don't hold anything for me, because I just don't see anything of the person in there. It's that they're all around me. So I don't have that connection, but I understand that some people really do. It's important to them. But we've come to the end of our time, but I cannot thank you again enough for this. I know that what you're sharing is so valuable to so many people, and I love reading your posts. I love being on this journey with you and hearing how you still experience Francesco in your life, even if it's not in the physical world of form. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's my pleasure.
All right. Well, have a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope to see you in person one day.
Me too. That'd be lovely, Del. Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to the show. If you're interested in learning more about my coaching and mentoring packages, please reach out to me at deladeyjones@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you.